The emergency session of the Terran Senate was held in the Great Crystal Chamber, deep beneath the surface of Earth. The chamber had been carved from a single massive crystal that had been found in the planet's core. It glowed with soft blue light that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of humanity itself. For 300 years, this chamber had witnessed the most important decisions in human history. Today, it would witness the end of an era. Jesu stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by the representatives from every human colony in the galaxy. The senators sat in curved rows that rose up around her like the inside of a giant shell. Their faces were grim and their eyes were focused on the holographic display that showed the ruins of New Geneva colony. The Vextari Empire has made their position perfectly clear, Jesu said. Her voice carried to every corner of the chamber. They view our commitment to peace as weakness. They believe they can take whatever they want from us because we will not fight back. They think that 200 years of diplomacy has made us soft and helpless. She paused and looked around at the faces of the senators. These were the leaders of the most peaceful civilization in galactic history. They had ended more wars than they had ever fought. They had saved more lives than any other species in known space. They are about to learn how wrong they are, she continued. Senator Hyun Woo-shin stood up. He was an old man with white hair who had been in the Senate for 40 years. Ambassador Kim, for 2 centuries humanity has been the galaxy's voice of reason. We have prevented dozens of wars. We have saved countless lives. Are you suggesting that we abandon everything we have built? No, Senator, Jesu replied. I'm suggesting that we remember what we built it on. Our ancestors did not choose peace because they were weak. They chose peace because they understood the true cost of war. But peace only works when both sides want it. The Vextari have rejected peace. They have chosen war. The debate went on for hours. Some senators wanted to try more diplomatic solutions. Others suggested economic sanctions or appeals to the Galactic Council. A few hoped that other alien species would pressure the Vextari to back down. Jesu listened to each argument. She remembered her younger self who might have agreed with some of them, but that was before she had seen the smoking ruins of New Geneva. That was before she had looked into Krextor's evil eyes and realized that some problems could not be solved with words. Finally, Senator Naeong Yu stood up. She was the youngest member of the Senate at only 35 years old. With respect to my colleagues, we are debating the wrong question, she said. The question is not whether we should fight back. The question is whether we still remember how Admiral Dongwoo Park was called to address the Senate. He was a big man with scars on his face from his younger days as a fighter pilot. He had commanded the Terran Defense Fleet for 20 years, but his ships had never fired their weapons in anger. Their job had been peacekeeping and humanitarian missions. Senators, he began, the Vextari have 47 warships in their primary fleet. They have conquered 6 star systems in the past century through superior firepower and brutal tactics. By conventional military thinking they outgun us 3-1, several senators looked worried. If the Vextari had such a military advantage, how could humanity possibly fight them? Park smiled grimly. But the Vextari have never faced humans in actual combat? They have no idea what our real capabilities are. Senator Shin looked confused. What do you mean, Admiral? The Terran Defense Fleet has been classified as a peacekeeping force for so long that everyone, including ourselves, has forgotten what we really are, Park explained. We are not just the children of Earth's united military forces. We are the descendants of the species that went from wooden clubs to nuclear weapons in 10,000 years. We are the children of the people who looked at the infinite darkness of space and decided to cross it anyway. He activated a holographic display that showed technical specifications. Several senators gasped when they saw the numbers. For 2 centuries we have been building ships designed to protect and serve, Park continued. But we never forgot how to build ships designed to kill. The Vextari think they are facing peaceful diplomats with a small escort fleet. They are about to face the full might of human military engineering. The display showed weapon systems that could crack planets in half. It showed defensive shields that could absorb the energy of an entire star. It showed engines that could cross the galaxy in hours instead of weeks. We have been holding back, Park said simply. We have been using only a tiny fraction of our real capabilities because we believed in peace. But the Vextari have forced our hand. They want to see what humans can do when we stop being nice. Senator Hyunwoo raised his hand. Admiral, are you saying that we have been deliberately limiting our technology? Not deliberately, Park replied. We simply chose to focus on peaceful applications. We built hospitals instead of weapons factories. We built schools instead of military academies. We built gardens instead of fortresses. But the knowledge was always there. The ability was always there. We just chose not to use it. He changed the display to show star charts. The Vextari control 47 star systems? They have a population of 12 billion. They think these numbers make them powerful. But they are thinking like a species that still fights with conventional weapons. What do you mean? Asked Senator Nayoung. They are fighting the last war, not the next one, Park explained. They still believe in massive fleets and territorial conquest. They do not understand that humanity has evolved beyond such primitive tactics. We do not need to match their numbers. We do not need to occupy their territory. We just need to demonstrate that resistance is futile. The vote was taken at midnight. Earth time, it was unanimous. For the first time in 200 years, the Terran Federation officially declared war. As the senators filed out of the crystal chamber, Jisoo remained behind. She stood alone in the soft blue light thinking about her sister Minju and all the other innocent people who had died on New Geneva. They had believed in the peace that she had helped build. They had trusted that the treaties would protect them. Admiral. Park approached her. Are you ready for this, Jisoo? We are about to change the course of galactic history. She nodded. The Vextari wanted to send a message. They succeeded. They reminded us that peace is not a natural state of the universe. It is something that must be protected, something that must be enforced, and now they will learn the cost of threatening that peace, Park said. Jisoo looked up at the crystal ceiling. Somewhere beyond the rock and soil of Earth, the stars were shining. Somewhere among those stars, the Vextari fleet was probably celebrating their easy victory over the weak humans. Their celebration would not last long. The Vextari fleet hung in space around the star called Kepler 442 like a swarm of angry metal insects. 47 warships arranged in perfect battle formation, their black hulls gleaming with the confidence of conquerors. Each ship was over, a kilometer long and bristled with weapons that could level cities. Fleet Commander Zector stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. He was a massive Vextari warrior with dark red scales and scars covering his arms from a dozen battles. He had never lost a fight in his entire career. Today would be no different. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we are detecting hyperspace signatures approaching our position. Zector smiled, showing his razor-sharp teeth. How many ships? Difficult to determine exactly, sir. The signatures are unusual. Possibly 12? Vessels, but the readings are inconsistent. 12 ships against 47, Zector laughed. The humans are even more foolish than I thought. All ships prepare for combat. We will destroy these human peacekeepers quickly, then move on to their next colony. The hyperspace portals opened and the Vextari fleet prepared to demonstrate their superiority once again. What emerged from those portals, however, was unlike anything they had ever seen. The first thing that struck them was the size. The human ships were enormous. The lead vessel was 3 times larger than the Vextari flagship. Its hull was dark gray and covered in angular surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. Strange energy patterns danced across its surface like living electricity. Commander, the tactical officer whispered, the power readings from those ships are impossible. Each one is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. Zector felt his confidence begin to waver. Open a channel to the lead ship. Perhaps we can negotiate. The human response came across all frequencies, broadcast in perfect Vextari language. This is Admiral Dongwoo Park of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have 60 seconds to surrender unconditionally. Any ship that does not power down its weapons will be destroyed, Zector snarled, his fear transforming into rage. You dare threaten the mighty Vextari Empire? All ships opened fire. The Vextari fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and fusion. Torpedoes filled the space between the two fleets with deadly energy. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon concentrated on just 12 targets. When the blinding light faded, all 12 human ships hung in space completely undamaged. Not a single scorch mark appeared on their hulls. Their defensive shields had not even flickered. Impossible, Zector breathed. Admiral Park's voice came across the channel, again calm and patient. Your 60 seconds are up. Since you chose to fire first, you have classified yourselves as hostile combatants. Initiating combat protocols, what happened next would be remembered as the most one-sided battle in galactic history. The human ships did not just fight back. They demonstrated levels of technology that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Their weapons did not simply destroy the Vextari ships. They disintegrated them at the molecular level, turning metal and flesh into clouds of glowing particles. Their defensive systems did not just deflect the Vextari attacks. They absorbed the energy and redirected it back at the attackers. The first Vextari ship to die was a cruiser called the Blood Drinker. A single beam of blue light struck it amidships, and the entire vessel simply ceased to exist. One moment was there firing its weapons and screaming defiance. The next moment there was nothing but empty space and a slowly expanding cloud of atoms. Evasive maneuvers, Zector screamed. All ships scatter formation, but there was nowhere to run. The human ships moved through space like living things, anticipating every desperate maneuver the Vextari attempted. They were not just faster than the Vextari vessels. They seemed to know where the Vextari ships would be before the Vextari pilots themselves knew the Vextari weapons were useless. Every shot they fired was absorbed by the human shields and converted into power for the human weapons. The humans were literally using Vextari energy to destroy Vextari ships. How is this possible? Zector demanded of his science officer. The terrified alien could barely speak. Sir, their technology is beyond our understanding. They appear to be manipulating space-time itself. Their weapons are not just energy beams. They are tearing holes in reality. Ship after ship vanished in flashes of impossible light. The Vextari crews did not even have time to scream before they were reduced to component atoms. The proud fleet that had conquered 6 star systems was being systematically erased from existence. Zector realized that this was not a battle, it was an execution. The humans were not fighting with desperation or anger. They were calm and methodical, like surgeons removing a tumor. Each shot was perfectly placed. Each maneuver was calculated for maximum efficiency. All ships retreat, he ordered. Emergency hyperspace jump. Sir, our hyperspace drives are not responding, the navigation officer reported. The humans are jamming. Our escape routes. Zector looked at the tactical display and felt true fear for the first time in his life. Only 7 Vextari ships remained out of the original 47. The humans had destroyed 40 ships in less than 15 minutes without taking a single point of damage. Open a channel, he said quietly. I surrender. Admiral Park's voice came back immediately. Fleet Commander Zector, you are ordered to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resume hostilities will result in your immediate destruction. The remaining Vextari ships went dark, their weapon systems shutting down in defeat. Human boarding parties appeared on their bridges as if they had simply walked through the metal walls. The Vextari crews found themselves staring at humans in advanced armor that made them look like walking tanks. But it was not the armor that made the Vextari soldiers step back in fear. It was the expressions on the human faces. They looked at the Vextari with the same cold, calculating gaze that the Vextari had once used on their own enemies. The age of Vextari expansion is over, Admiral Park announced to the surviving crews. From this moment forward, any act of aggression against human colonies or any other peaceful species will be met with overwhelming force. We have shown you mercy today by allowing some of you to live. Do not mistake this mercy for weakness. As the Vextari survivors were taken prisoner, the news of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, the same conversation was taking place. The peaceful humans had revealed their true nature, and it was terrifying. The galaxy had spent 2 centuries thinking that humans were weak because they chose diplomacy over destruction. Now everyone understood the truth. Humans had not chosen peace because they were weak. They had chosen peace because they were so powerful that they could afford to be merciful. The Vextari had awakened something that had been sleeping for 200 years. They had reminded humanity that sometimes peace could only be preserved through strength. And they had learned to their horror that when humans decided to fight, they did not just win battles, they redefined what warfare meant. The neutral space station was a massive metal structure that floated in the darkness between the stars. It had been built 50 years ago as a place where different alien species could meet and talk without anyone having an advantage. The station belonged to no one and everyone at the same time. It was painted white and covered in symbols from every known civilization in the galaxy. Jasoo walked through the long corridors toward the main meeting room. Her footsteps echoed off the metal walls. She passed representatives from many different alien species. The Eldari looked like tall blue people with extra arms. The Threks were like giant insects that clicked when they walked. Most of them nodded respectfully when they saw her. Everyone in the galaxy had heard about what happened to New Geneva. She reached the meeting room and stopped outside the door. Inside, she could hear the Vextari ambassador talking loudly in his harsh voice. He was probably bragging about the attack to his bodyguards. Jasoo took a deep breath and opened the door. The Vextari ambassador was exactly what she expected. Krextor was a large lizard creature with dark green scales and yellow eyes. His teeth were sharp and pointed like knives. He wore expensive clothes covered in gold decorations. 2 huge Vextari soldiers stood behind his chair. They were both carrying energy weapons. Krextor barely looked up when Jasoo entered the room. He was eating something that looked like raw meat. His claws made scratching sounds on the metal table as he tore the meat apart. "Ah, the human finally arrives," he said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "I was beginning to think you were too scared to come. Please sit down so we can discuss the new territorial arrangements." Jasoo sat down across from him. She kept her face calm and professional even though she wanted to scream at him. "Ambassador Krextor, you have violated the Galactic Peace Accords. The attack on New Geneva was an unprovoked assault on civilian targets. According to interstellar law." "Interstellar law," Krextor interrupted with a laugh. "The strong take what they need. The weak accept what they are given. This is how the universe works, little human. Your species has forgotten this truth because you have been comfortable for too long." Jasoo spent the next 2 hours trying to reason with him. She quoted treaties that had been signed by every major species in the galaxy. She mentioned precedents from other diplomatic conflicts. She offered compromises that would let both sides save face. Krextor dismissed everything she said with increasing contempt. "The Vextari Empire needed that star system for our expansion," he said. "We took it. The humans who were living there were trespassing on our territory. We simply removed them. Those were innocent families," Jasoo said. "Children who had never hurt anyone. Scientists who were trying to grow food to feed hungry people across the galaxy." Krextor smiled, showing all his razor-sharp teeth. "They were weak. Weakness is not tolerated in Vextari space. Consider their deaths a lesson about respecting your superiors." Something cold and hard settled in Jasoo's chest. She had spent her entire career believing that every species, no matter how different, could be reasoned with. She had ended wars between ancient enemies. She had negotiated trade agreements that helped everyone. She had built bridges between cultures that had nothing in common except their desire for peace. But as she looked into Krextor's yellow eyes, she saw something that could not be negotiated with: pure, arrogant evil. He was not just refusing to compromise. He was enjoying the fact that he had murdered innocent people. He was proud of what he had done. "The Vextari Empire demands that humanity withdraw from 12-star systems," Krextor continued. "You will also pay us compensation for the inconvenience of having to remove your colonists." We are being generous by not demanding more, and if we refuse, Jesu asked quietly. Krextor leaned back in his chair. Then we will remove more colonies. We will keep removing them until you learn to obey. What will you do about it? Write us angry letters. Perhaps you will impose trade sanctions on us. He laughed again. Humans are soft. You have grown weak playing peacemaker for so long that you have forgotten how to fight. The Vextari Empire takes what it wants, and there is nothing you can do to stop us. Jesu stood up slowly. For the first time in her life, her diplomatic training failed her. She could not pretend to be calm anymore. She could not smile and offer more compromises. The mask of polite professionalism slipped from her face. Ambassador Krextor, you have just made the biggest mistake in your species' history, she said. Her voice was quiet but filled with dangerous promise. You have mistaken our love of peace for inability to wage war? You think that because we choose diplomacy over destruction we are weak. Allow me to correct that misconception. Krextor stopped laughing. Something in Jesu's voice made his bodyguards reach for their weapons. You murdered my sister, Jesu continued. You murdered her husband and her 2 children. You murdered 300,000 innocent people who trusted in the peace that I helped build. You did this because you thought we would do nothing about it. She walked toward the door, then turned back to look at him one last time. The Terran Federation formally rejects all Vextari territorial claims. We demand full reparations for the destruction of New Geneva Colony. We demand the immediate withdrawal of all Vextari military forces from human space. And we demand that you personally stand trial for war crimes against civilian populations, Krextor snarled. And if we refuse all your demands, what then? Jesu smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Then you will discover why humans were able to conquer their own planet before any other species in this galaxy had even invented the wheel. You will learn why we went from stone tools to starships in less time than it takes most species to develop written language. You will find out what happens when the most dangerous predators in the known universe stop pretending to be harmless. She left the room without another word. Behind her she could hear Krextor shouting threats and curses, but she did not look back. She had work to do. As she walked back through the corridors of the neutral station she passed the same alien representatives she had seen earlier, but now they looked at her differently. Word traveled fast in the diplomatic community. Everyone knew that the age of gentle human diplomacy was over. The Aldari ambassador stopped her in the hallway. Ambassador Kim, is it true? Are the humans really going to fight the Vextari? Jesu looked at him with tired eyes. The humans are going to do what they should have done 200 years ago. We are going to remind the galaxy that peace is a choice, not a weakness. And we are going to show everyone what happens to those who mistake our mercy for helplessness. She boarded her ship and set course for Earth. Behind her the neutral station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Somewhere in that station Krextor was probably planning his next attack, convinced that the humans would never dare to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Jesu Kim woke up to the sound of her communication device screaming at her bedside table. The red emergency light was flashing so fast it made her eyes hurt. She grabbed the device and saw the message that would change everything. New Geneva Colony was under attack. She ran to her office in the Terran diplomatic building. The hallways were full of people running around and shouting. Everyone looked scared and confused. Jesu had never seen anything like this before. For 200 years, humans had lived in peace with all the other alien species in the galaxy. Wars were something that happened in old history books. When she reached her office, the big holographic screen was already showing live video from New Geneva. The images made her stomach feel sick. Huge alien warships were hanging in the sky above the colony. They were firing bright blue beams of energy down at the buildings below. Every beam turned a building into dust and smoke. Jesu watched in horror as the school where her niece had played just last month was hit by one of the beams. The building simply disappeared. 1 second it was there, and the next second there was nothing but a crater in the ground. She put her hand over her mouth to stop herself from being sick. The aliens attacking the colony were called the Vextari. They looked like giant lizards that walked on two legs. Their ships were black and covered in sharp spikes. Jisoo had met Vextari diplomats before at peace conferences. They had always been rude and mean, but they had never broken the peace treaties. The treaty said that no species could attack another species without warning first. Her assistant Tae-young ran into the office holding a stack of papers. His face was white with shock. "Ambassador Kim, the casualty reports are coming in," he said. His voice was shaking. 300,000 people lived in New Geneva colony. The Vextari are not leaving. Anyone alive? Jisoo felt like someone had hit her in the chest. 300,000 people. That was more people than lived in some entire star systems. New Geneva had been a farming colony. The people there grew food and studied plants. They had no weapons and no soldiers. They were just families trying to make a better life. "What about the defense systems?" she asked. "Surely they fought back." Tae-young shook his head. New Geneva had no military defense systems. It was classified as a peaceful research colony. The people there thought they were safe because of the peace treaties. Jisoo had spent her whole career working on those treaties. She had traveled to dozens of alien worlds and spent months negotiating with different species. The treaties were supposed to keep everyone safe. They said that no one could attack civilians. They said that all conflicts had to be resolved through talk and not fighting. She watched the screen as more buildings were destroyed. The Vextari ships were taking their time. They were not in any hurry. They were destroying everything slowly and carefully, like they were enjoying it. Jisoo realized that this was not just an attack. It was a message. The Vextari were telling all the other species in the galaxy that the peace treaties meant nothing to them. Her sister Minju had moved New Geneva 3 years ago with her husband and 2 young children. They had opened a small farm where they grew special fruits that could only grow in New Geneva's unique soil. Minju had sent Jisoo pictures of her children playing in the fields just last week. The children had been smiling and laughing in the pictures. Jisoo tried to call her sister, but there was no answer. The communication networks around New Geneva had been destroyed in the first wave of attacks. She tried calling again and again, but each time she got the same message. No signal available. Fleet Admiral Dongwoo Park burst through the door of her office. He was a big man with gray hair who had been in charge of the human space fleet for 20 years. His face was red with anger and his hands were clenched into fists. "Jisoo," he said, "the Vextari ambassador is demanding to meet with us. He says, this attack was just a minor territorial adjustment. He expects us to negotiate new boundaries like nothing happened." Jisoo stared at him. "Minor territorial adjustment," she repeated. "They killed 300,000 innocent people and they call it minor." "That is exactly what they said," Dongwoo replied. "They want to meet at the neutral space station tomorrow. They expect us to just accept what they did and move on." Jisoo looked back at the screen. The Vextari ships were almost finished with their work. Most of New Geneva was now just smoking. Ruins. Here and there she could see small fires still burning, but there were no more buildings left to destroy. In just 6 hours, the Vextari had wiped out an entire human colony. "What do we do?" Tae-young asked. "Do we meet with them?" For her whole life, Jisoo had believed that talking could solve any problem. She had ended wars between alien species by getting them to sit down and discuss their differences. She had prevented conflicts by finding compromises that everyone could accept. She had always believed that violence was never the answer. But as she watched the last images from New Geneva, she felt something new growing inside her chest. It was not sadness or fear, it was anger. Pure cold anger like she had never felt before. The Vextari had not just broken the peace treaties. They had murdered innocent families. They had destroyed children who would never grow up to have children of their own. "Yes," she said quietly. "We will meet with them. But first I need to send a message to Earth Command." Dongwoo raised his eyebrows. "What kind of message?" Jisoo turned away from the screen. She could not watch anymore. "Tell them that the age of peaceful diplomacy is over. Tell them that some problems cannot be solved by talking. Tell them that humanity has tried to be peaceful for 200 years, but our enemies have mistaken our kindness for weakness." She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there among those stars were the Vextari ships that had destroyed New Geneva. Somewhere out there were the aliens who thought they could murder humans without any consequences. "What are you planning, Jisu?" Dongwu asked. She turned back to face him. Her voice was calm, but there was something dangerous in her eyes. "I'm going to meet with the Vextari ambassador. I'm going to listen to what he has to say. And then I'm going to show him and every other species in this galaxy exactly what happens when someone hurts innocent humans." Taeyong looked confused. "But Ambassador, you have always said that violence only creates more violence. That was before." "They murdered my sister," Jisu replied. "That was before they showed us that they do not understand mercy or compassion or basic decency. The Vextari think that humans are weak because we choose peace over war. They are about to learn how wrong they are." She picked up her communication device and started recording a message to send to every human colony and military base in the galaxy. Her voice was steady and clear. "This is Ambassador Jisu Kim speaking to all human forces. Today the Vextari Empire attacked and destroyed New Geneva Colony. 300,000 civilians are dead. The Vextari have broken the galactic peace accords and committed an act of war against humanity. All diplomatic personnel are hereby ordered to return to Earth immediately. All military commanders are to place their forces on highest alert. The age of peaceful negotiation with hostile species is over. We tried to build a galaxy based on mutual respect and cooperation. Our enemies have shown us that they prefer violence and conquest. Very well, they will have their war. But it will not be the war they expect." She ended the recording and sent it. Within hours, every human in the galaxy would know what had happened. They would know that their peaceful way of life had been shattered by aliens who saw kindness as weakness. "Prepare my ship," she told Dongwu. "I want to reach the neutral station before the Vextari ambassador arrives." "And Admiral, yes, start preparing the fleet for combat operations. Real combat operations, not peacekeeping missions. It has been 200 years since humanity has fought a real war. I think it is time to remind the galaxy why our ancestors were able to conquer their own planet and then reach for the stars." Dongwu smiled for the first time since the attack began. It was not a pleasant smile. "It will be my pleasure, Ambassador." As Jisu left her office to prepare for the journey to the neutral station, she took one last look at the screen showing New Geneva. The fires were dying out now. Soon there would be nothing left but cold, empty ground. Where families had once lived and worked and dreamed of the future, the Vextari had wanted to send a message. They had succeeded. But the message they had sent was not the one they had intended. Instead of showing the galaxy that humans were weak, they had awakened something that had been sleeping for 2 centuries. They had reminded humanity that peace was a choice, not a necessity. And now humanity was choosing war. The news of the Kepler 442 battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On every world and every system, the same message was being broadcast. The human peacekeepers had destroyed an entire Vextari fleet in less than 20 minutes. The species that everyone thought was too gentle to fight had demonstrated military power beyond imagination on the Vextari homeworld of Vex. Prime Emperor Krexmar paced his throne room like a caged beast. The throne room was a massive chamber carved from black stone and decorated with the skulls of enemies. Krexmar was the largest Vextari alive, standing over 3 meters, tall with blood-red scales and claws that could cut through steel. "Impossible," he snarled. 47 ships cannot be destroyed so easily. The reports must be wrong. His military advisor, a scarred veteran named Torux, bowed low. "Your Majesty, I have confirmed the reports with multiple sources. The humans possess technology far beyond our understanding. They did not just defeat our fleet. They obliterated it." Krexmar smashed his fist against the stone wall, leaving deep cracks. "Then we will gather every ship in the Empire. We will mass our forces and crush these upstart humans once and for all. But even as he spoke, reports were coming in from across Vextari space. Human ships were appearing at strategic locations throughout the Empire. They were not attacking but simply watching. Their sensors were so advanced that they could detect Vextari ship movements from light years away on the bridge of the TFS. Indomitable Admiral Dongwu Park studied the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The Vextari were reacting exactly as he had predicted. They were thinking like generals from the old days when wars were won by whoever had the most ships and the biggest guns. Admiral, reported Captain Minji-O, his tactical officer, Vextari 2nd Fleet is massing at the Altair system. 237 ships, including their super dreadnoughts, and the 3rd Fleet, moving toward the Centauri system, sir. They are trying to trap us between two massive formations. Park nodded. Signal the fleet. Initiate Operation Prometheus. Operation Prometheus was the culmination of 2 centuries of human military planning. While the galaxy had assumed that humans were focused on peace and diplomacy, human military, scientists had been quietly developing weapons and tactics that would make conventional warfare obsolete. The Vextari believed that war was about controlling territory and destroying enemy forces. They thought in terms of battles and campaigns. But humanity had evolved beyond such primitive concepts. They understood that the most efficient way to end a war was to make it impossible for the enemy to continue fighting. Within hours, human strike teams appeared at Vextari shipyards, weapons factories, and supply depots. They did not come in massive fleets that could be detected and intercepted. They came in small groups that could appear anywhere instantly. The Vextari discovered that their enemy was not playing by the old rules. While they concentrated their forces for traditional battles, humans were systematically dismantling their entire war machine. Every military installation in the Empire was attacked simultaneously. The weapons factories on Vex Prime were the first to go. Massive facilities that had been producing warships for centuries simply vanished in flashes of blue light. The orbital shipyards above Thorax Prime were next. Structures that had taken decades to build were reduced to drifting debris in minutes. How are they doing this? Emperor Krexmar demanded. How can they be in so many places at once? Torux consulted his reports. With shaking hands. Your Majesty, it appears that the humans have developed some form of instantaneous transportation. Their ships can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Then we will destroy their homeworld, Krexmar roared. We will strike at Earth itself, sir. Our scouts report that Earth is defended by a network of automated stations. The humans appear to have surrounded their homeworld with thousands of defensive platforms. Krexmar realized that he was facing an enemy unlike any he had ever encountered. The humans did not just have superior technology. They had been preparing for this war for decades, maybe centuries. Every move they made was calculated. Every strike was precisely targeted. Admiral Park watched the destruction of Vextari military capacity with professional detachment. This was not about revenge or conquest. This was about ending a threat to galactic peace as quickly and efficiently as possible. Sir, Captain Minji reported, Vextari military production has been reduced by 80%. Their fleet strength is down to less than 100 operational vessels. What about civilian casualties? 0, sir. All strikes have been limited to military targets. We have successfully avoided any damage to civilian populations, Park nodded with satisfaction. Even in war, humans maintain their commitment to protecting innocent lives. They could have destroyed every Vextari city and killed billions of civilians. Instead, they had surgically removed only the Empire's ability to wage war. The Vextari 2nd Fleet arrived at Altair System expecting to find human forces waiting for them. Instead, they found nothing but empty space and the wreckage of their own supply convoy. The humans had struck the convoy, destroyed it completely, and vanished before the fleet could respond. Where are they? Demanded Fleet Admiral Nexus. Where are the human ships? His answer came in the form of 12 human vessels that appeared directly in the center of his formation. They had somehow materialized inside his defensive perimeter without being detected. This is Admiral Park came. The transmission. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now or be destroyed. Nexus looked at his tactical display. He had 200 ships arranged in a perfect battle formation. The humans had only 12. But he had seen what happened to the first Vextari fleet. He had watched the recordings of 47 warships being erased from existence in minutes. I surrender, he said quietly. The same scene played out across the galaxy. Wherever Vextari forces tried to mass for battle, human ships appeared and offered the same choice: surrender or be destroyed. Most chose surrender. Within 1 week, the Vextari Empire's military capacity was reduced to almost nothing. Their fleets were captured or destroyed, their weapons factories were gone, their supply lines were cut. They had been transformed from a galactic power into a broken remnant. The galaxy watched in stunned silence, as humanity demonstrated that their commitment to peace had not made them weak. It had made them so strong that they could wage war with surgical precision, ending conflicts before they could spread. Emperor Krexmar sat on his throne staring at the reports of his empire's destruction. In 7 days, the humans had accomplished what no enemy had managed in centuries. They had brought the mighty Vextari Empire to its knees. Send a message to the humans, he said finally. Tell them that the Vextari Empire yields. We request terms for surrender. The age of Vextari expansion was over. The surrender ceremony took place on the neutral space station where everything had begun. But this time the atmosphere was completely different. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy had come to witness the end of the Vextari. Empire's reign of terror. Ambassador Jisoo Kim stood in the main conference chamber looking out at the assembled delegates. The room was packed with alien diplomats who had come to see how humanity would handle victory. Some looked curious. Others looked worried. All of them looked respectful. Emperor Krexmar entered the chamber flanked by 2 human guards. The once mighty ruler looked small and defeated. His red scales had faded to a dull brown, and his eyes no longer held their former arrogance. Behind him walked Ambassador Krextor the Lizard, who had gloated about the destruction of New Geneva. Krexmar approached the negotiating table slowly. His massive frame seemed to have shrunk since the war began. Ambassador Kim, he said, in a voice barely above a whisper, the Vextari Empire formally surrenders. We are prepared to accept whatever terms you demand. Jisoo looked at him for a long moment. This was the creature whose forces had murdered her sister and 300,000 other innocent people. This was the emperor who had believed that humans were too weak to fight back. Now he stood before her broken and defeated. The terms are simple, she said. Complete withdrawal from all occupied territories. Full reparations for the destruction of New Geneva colony. Dismantling of your military forces under galactic supervision. And submission to a new galactic authority that will prevent future wars. Krexmar nodded without hesitation. We accept all terms. We have no choice. You always had a choice. Jisoo replied, you could have chosen peace. You could have honored the treaties. You could have resolved your expansion needs through negotiation. Instead, you chose to murder innocent people. She gestured to the holographic display showing images of the destroyed colony. 300,000 civilians died because you believed that strength meant the ability to destroy the weak. Now you understand what real strength looks like. Krextor, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. I do not understand, he said. You could have destroyed our entire species. You could have turned every Vextari world into ash. Why did you show mercy to those who showed you none? Jisoo leaned forward. Because that is what separates us from you. We did not become the galaxy's peacekeepers because we were weak. We became peacekeepers because we were strong enough to choose protection over destruction. Strong enough to end wars without ending entire species. She stood up and walked to the window looking out at the stars. For 2 centuries we have worked to build a galaxy where different species could coexist peacefully. You tried to destroy that dream. You failed. Admiral Dongwu Park entered the chamber carrying the formal surrender documents. He placed them on the table in front of Krexmar. Sign these and your species will survive. Refuse and face the consequences, Krexmar. Signed the documents with claws that shook slightly. As he did, representatives from across the galaxy watched in respectful silence. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer just the galaxy's diplomatic corps. They were its enforcers. "What happens now?" asked the Aldari ambassador. "Will humans rule the galaxy through military might?" Jesu turned back to face the assembled delegates. "No, we will continue to seek peaceful solutions to conflicts. We will continue to mediate disputes and negotiate agreements. But now everyone understands that our commitment to peace is backed by the power to enforce it." She activated a new holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. "We are proposing a new galactic organization, the Terran Peace Authority. It will be tasked with preventing conflicts before they begin and ending them quickly when prevention fails." The Threx representative clicked his mandibles nervously. "Will this authority have the power to intervene in the affairs of sovereign worlds? Only when those worlds threaten the peace and safety of others," Admiral Park replied. The Vextari Empire was allowed to conquer 6 star systems because everyone hoped they would eventually be satisfied. We now know that some aggressors are never satisfied. They must be stopped. Over the following hours, the details of the new galactic order were worked out. The Terran Peace Authority would maintain a fleet of human ships at strategic locations throughout the galaxy. Any species that threatened civilian populations would face immediate intervention. "This is not conquest," Jesu explained to the assembled delegates. "This is protection. We are not seeking to rule other species. We are seeking to ensure that no species can rule others through violence." The Vextari delegation was the first to formally accept the new authority. They had no choice. Their military was destroyed and their empire was in ruins. But as other species added their signatures to the agreement, it became clear that the galaxy welcomed human protection. For too long they had lived in fear of aggressive species like the Vextari. Now they had a protector with the power to stop aggressors before they could start wars. Later that evening, Jesu stood alone on the observation deck of the station looking out at the stars. Admiral Park joined her at the viewport. "The Galactic Council has already started drafting new treaties," he said. "They want to formalize humanity's role as galactic peacekeepers." "And what did you tell them?" "That we will consider it. But only if we can do it our way. No more hoping that aggressors will see reason. No more allowing conflicts to fester until they explode into wars. If someone threatens innocent lives, we respond immediately with overwhelming force." Jesu nodded. "My sister would have approved. She always believed that good people had a responsibility to protect those who could not protect themselves." "The galaxy is going to be a much more peaceful place now," Park said. "Because now everyone knows the cost of disturbing that peace," Jesu agreed. "It is not just diplomatic protests anymore. It is facing the full might of human technology." As they watched a Vextari transport ship limp past the station carrying prisoners back to their homeworld, the crew would spread stories of what they had witnessed. Technology that seemed impossible, tactics that redefined warfare, and most importantly, a species that could have destroyed everything but chose mercy instead. The message would spread to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity's commitment to peace was not weakness. It was backed by the most advanced military force in known space. A force that would be used only when necessary, but would be used without hesitation when innocent lives were at stake. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if the galaxy itself was breathing easier. For the first time in centuries, peace was not just a hope. It was guaranteed by beings with the power to enforce it. The Vextari had wanted to shatter the peace. Instead, they had awakened the guardians of that peace. And in doing so, they had created a new age where conflicts would be resolved through negotiation, not because species were naturally peaceful, but because everyone understood the alternative. The galaxy was entering a new era, an era where the strong would protect the weak instead of preying on them, an era where humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their wisdom to use that technology only when necessary. It was perhaps the most human solution possible. Achieving peace through strength, protecting the innocent through power, and demonstrating